Welcome to the Inner Design Podcast. Today I have a special guest that I had a chance to meet her on her podcast, which I'll tell you a little bit about. Welcome to Leslie Boyce. Leslie is a business coach and advisor for entrepreneurs. She knows what it's like to lace up for the entrepreneurial marathon. She has 15 years in the fitness business, 10 of them being building and running a thriving fitness facility. Leslie holds an executive MBA from UC Denver, which allows her to offer a broader and deeper understanding of what it takes to achieve and sustain entrepreneurial success. She's been in your shoes and she's still in them. Her motto is running your business alone doesn't have to be lonely. Leslie helps entrepreneurs overcome the overwhelm by building on her clients' natural strengths because their unique abilities are what bring energy and longevity to their business. She's also the host of the Fitness of Business podcast, where we first met. And I love that when Leslie speaks, she's not really talking about business tactics as much as she is talking about the human being behind the business. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. It's so nice to be here with you again, to be
I
on the
know,
screen.
I know. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah. So let's just start just like grounding ourselves. I know you do this all the time too, but just kind of bringing ourselves to the present moment. And if you like, we can just take a nice deep breath in together. Let it go. And with that, we just bring in whatever energy needs to show up in presence with us and let go of everything else that doesn't matter at this moment.
Do it.
Yay. Welcome, Leslie. So nice to have you here.
Thank you. That was a lovely intro. Thank you so much.
It's you. It's just genuinely, authentically who you are.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. I think I'd love to know. Let's start with like a big question you can just dive into as much as you feel. I'd like for our listeners to hear, what does it mean to build a business without losing yourself? It's really something that's important to us here at Inner Design as well.
Yeah. Well, let's see. In order to answer this question, I think I need to admit been a lot of trial by fire. Um, there was the first thing that comes to mind is, as you mentioned, I founded and ran a boutique fitness studio here in Denver for almost 10 years. And something that I struggled with that I didn't anticipate struggling with was actually when I closed, I didn't know how to identify myself anymore. Like for all those years, I was Leslie, I'm a gym owner. I'm a gym owner. I run a business. And like, how cool is that? And now I don't run this gym anymore. I was doing personal training again. I brought some clients into my garage gym and I totally pivoted. I went back to grad school. I had a baby. Like I was doing all these other things, but there was like
Yeah.
my identity was so intertwined with, feeling like I needed to be synonymous with being a business owner, and that meant a brick and mortar. Um, hindsight, I can still certainly understand why I felt that way, but I I wish I could go back and tell myself that the things that I thought mattered so much just didn't. And that everyone else's perception of what I was doing or how I was doing or how I was doing it were not nearly as um, big or dramatic, or they didn't care as much as I thought they did. And that's a good thing. And so, now in running my business now, doing more one-on-one coaching and small group coaching, and I have a local in-person community for female founders. I think probably a huge difference is I'm also a mom now. I'm a stepmom. I'm a wife. Like I have a lot more going on in my life that I am able to and kind of forced to separate the two identities. But it's something that I really do have to intentionally work on and remind myself that, like, if something doesn't go well or something doesn't go the way that I hope, it went, then that's not a reflection on me as a person, but that's tough to actually really own.
Right, that's so relatable. I mean, hearing that whole journey, I think a lot of us identify ourselves with the role that we're doing with work. And when that takes a detour or collapses or changes route, we're just like, wait a minute, what happened? Who am I? And people can lose their footing. What
Mhm.
parts of yourself did you have to develop in order to become that leader that now your business as it pivoted required?
Boundaries. And
Yes.
I say that with, like, a question mark at the end because it is so tough. That is something I certainly struggled with, in the fitness industry. Every It's very friendly, it's a very casual environment, it's very easy to develop these friendships, relationships, close, friendships that blurred those boundaries, especially with employees, definitely with paying members. And I
Yeah.
think what feels, what felt inauthentic to me at the time, but is something I'm intentionally trying to do now is, like, I get along with I get along with most people. I enjoy being around most people. Like, I like to engage in conversation and I'm curious about people and I'm not a transactional person. Um, and so that, unfortunately I learned a lot of lessons the hard way by just saying, "Well, this is who I am, and, if it comes back to bite me," and it did. It definitely did. And so going into this business, my business is still very personal. It's very, built on connection and relationships. So just having to be a lot more intentional with where I set the boundary in those relationships.
Yeah, yeah. I can sense a lot of that from the personality that I've interacted with you on just on the podcast. So I can imagine how it must be for you in the workplace. And I can actually really feel those relationships, how they must, be for you. You are a very personable person. And so I think that, it's important to have boundaries. Boundaries, I think saying no doesn't, people think, okay, that makes it you're a tougher person, but actually, I think it allows the sweetness to come out. Maybe that is the part of you that I'm interacting with.
Yeah. And it's also like, you then know that if I am saying yes, that there is, like, a real investment there. And I think, that kinda also goes back to your question about what skills did I need to develop. Um, the ability to say no and be okay with the fact that I'm not going to be for everyone. Not everyone is going
Yes,
to, um, see value in what I do or seek out my services. Um,
right.
and not dwell on those because that just takes energy away from the ones who are very much invested and like those are the ones that matter.
Yeah, when you say that business is personal, what do most people misunderstand about that or what that means?
Um, I do say that, don't I? It's you're using my own words against me,
Yeah,
um,
no.
which I say to my 5-year-old all the time. Um, I have chosen to go into industries where my business is built on connection and creating environments and community and um, trust and safety and all of that. I think if I was not personally, if those were not personally my values, that would come across. People would see right through me just, trying to pretend that I stand for those things. And so most of my clients that I work with, as I know you do too, are in a more service-oriented industry where they're interacting with clients, they're interacting with people all the time,
Yeah.
and they are
Yeah.
selling themselves as a brand, as the product, as the offer. So I think it's impossible to completely compartmentalize when there's all this talk of personal branding and show up authentically and tell your story and build trust. Um, because if someone's going to work with me, they're going to get me, not just a worksheet or a workbook or something theoretical. And so it is personal, and yet still being able to take a step back and remind my clients that yes, it's personal, but you still have to preserve your own space and your boundaries.
Yeah. So I hear that you really walk the talk, like you live it fully authentically, which I think is the main core of personal branding. It's really you
Mhm.
showing up authentically and helping other people to show up authentically. Sometimes, I notice that business owners, they tie their self-worth to their performance, right? We were talking about the identity coming to what you're doing, but the outcome being tied into your value or your worth. You know, like, tell me a little bit about some of that. Let's just chat
Yeah.
on that. How do we deal with that? How do you deal with that personally? And then how do you help others that are also having that close tie of their self-worth to their performance and their outcome?
Yeah. I mean, I work with entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs are by nature high achieving. They are going to set high expectations of themselves. And I realize this is a sweeping generalization, so I'll just say most of the clients I work with, and then be disappointed when they perceive that they have not met said expectations that they have set for themselves. And I'm completely, in this camp as well. Um, it, Whenever I sort of talk about this topic, I think about when I ran my gym. And I'm never going to pretend like it was this massively profitable endeavor. It just wasn't. It was um, a wonderful learning experience, but a very expensive learning experience. Um, and I would throw a party every year for our, anniversary. And it was so well attended, and it was just so fun. And people showed up, and we did partner workouts, and people dressed up, and we did these games. And it was just like everyone looked forward to it all year long. And it was a blast. And I remember my parents would often come in for it to celebrate with me. And they would say, "Do you realize how successful you are?" And I just shut it down. I said, "No, I'm not. Like, here, I'll show you my books, like that." And they're like, "No, no, no, that's not what we mean. Look, there's
Right.
75 people
Yeah.
here today, and
Yeah,
they're all and."
exactly.
The party ended an hour ago, and 50 of them are still here because they want to hang out with each other. Like,
Yeah.
the ability to reframe the definition of success, um, which is not to say that making money is not important. Of course, you have to sustain and, yes, all of that. But I think that the work that I do is thinking about the concept of success in those, from that perspective. And when I work with my clients, it's like, let's not sit here and dwell on all of the things that you didn't do or didn't check off your task list, or, the followers you didn't get, or whatever their goals may be. And can we focus on the things that you did do, and, where you were 3 weeks ago saying, I don't even know where to start with fill in the blank. And now you've done
Right.
two or three things. Like, I think it's just, it's a really dangerous, vicious cycle to get in as high achieving people that I'm never going to be satisfied. Nothing is ever good.
Yeah, yeah. True, so
Um,
true.
yeah, and
Yeah,
listen, like I said, I it is something I have to work on and check, make my husband check me and my friends who are like, yeah, hello, you're doing a lot." And I appreciate it.
yeah. I love that. It just the reframe of success and the value in how we look at things because at Inner Design, I definitely believe and function from the methodology that presence is, the higher value over performance and then teaching that and training that and living that and embodying that. But it's also really difficult in this modern society where everything is measured by that outcome and the performance of it. I wonder if you can speak on like how do we separate who we are from what we produce? What's your personal experience of that? Is there a technique, a method? Is it the memory? Someone got to nudge you in the elbow a little bit.
Yeah, I think, like, having the people in your inner circle, whether it's close friends or family or significant others, maybe past clients who you trust to give you those nudges and yes, and
Yeah.
nudge you, elbow you and say, "Hey, stop it." Smack you around a little
Yes.
bit. "Stop it. You are you are worthy and worth so much more than your balance sheet shows or that your social media engagement shows." I think, just adding to what you said about this, our societal pressure, social media of,
Yeah.
the guarantee of if you work with me, you're going to increase your revenue by 20% and you're going to like all these guarantees of these financial metrics. And, you know, some people can guarantee that because they have the track record. I think a lot of it is probably just advertising, marketing to reel you in. Like I could never lead with that. And I think that's
Right.
what makes probably what you and I both do, so challenging to explain or to message, uh, brand or whatever you want to call it, is because it's just so much more nuanced than that.
That's so true. That's so true. And this is where I feel like, and I call it, your inner design. So I will ask people, like, do you have your own inner design that besides mindset, is there something deeper that comes from within, that part of us that's always speaking or that that has known us throughout
Mhm.
time? Do you have your inner design? Like, what is that part that helps you get through this past the mindset or even maybe just the mindset? It's okay.
Um, this this may be a bit, I don't know, like counter. I Well, movement for me is non-negotiable. I mean, I come from a fitness background, but even prior to that, really starting in college, I prioritized exercise. I didn't know where it was going to take me. I certainly didn't think it was going to take me into a career in the fitness industry, but it now makes sense that it did. That doing some sort of movement every day is what grounds me. And I think like I don't even have to be as intentional about it anymore because it's just so a part of my day to day habits and behaviors. Um, I do know that when I go without it for whatever reason, I had recently had a back surgery, but this was after many years of chronic back pain, and I did not realize how much energy the pain had been consuming all of those years.
Wow.
Um, and so now the ability to be on the other side of it, be pain free, and really appreciate that I can move every day. Um, yeah, I think I don't always necessarily connect it directly to like this is part of my practice and gets me in the right mindset. I just do it and I'm not bogged down with the pain anymore.
That's so good to hear. I think that's really important. I love that it's movement. Yeah, I can see that completely. Your life moves around that. And I think that, even I heard you talk about burnout and recovery. And of course, we're talking about on the entrepreneurial side, but I think the way that you speak about recovery as being a strategy probably has more of the fitness aspect. Can you share a little bit about how that perspective has shifted for you?
Yeah, okay, so the fitness industry is kind of crazy. The hours are insane. I mean, so I started as a personal trainer, which is what kind of sparked my interest to even go down the route of opening my own gym. Um, I loved the training. I loved writing programming. I loved building relationships and helping people feel confident. The hours are so terrible. I mean, it is 5 a.m. start. You especially when you're just starting out, you don't get to choose which, hours you wanna work. You work all
Right.
morning. You often have an awkward break in the middle of the day where you're really tired and then go back to the gym at night because people wanna work out before work, after work, and sometimes at lunch. And so the days are so long. And when I opened my gym, I mean, I knew that, and it was really, I did not do a good job of building in recovery in terms of my schedule, like not physically being at the gym. I was there every single day, because I just felt like I needed to be, um, and also not building in recovery in terms of workouts. I owned a CrossFit gym, and I programmed them. The workouts were so fun, so intense. Um, I loved doing them, and I had this sense of guilt and pressure, both internal pressure and external pressure from, my gym members who would be like, "Oh, did you do today's workout?" And like, "I want to beat your time." And then I felt like I needed to it was just like mounting. Um
Yeah.
and so now I mean, my business model is different in a lot of ways, and I don't have a brick and mortar, number 1.
Yeah.
Um, but also, like, there are times now during the day where I can slip into sort of old habits of like, no, just keep going, keep going, keep going. I have all these things I didn't cross off my list for today, and I want to get ahead on whatever. That's going to happen every single day. But if I feel like I am hitting a total creative wall, energy wall, and it is just not happening, like I will just walk away or be done for the day or go for a walk or completely shift my focus. Um, and then also like remind myself that it's okay. Give myself permission to say that's actually what I did need. I didn't need to just cross again arbitrary timeline I've created for myself off the list.
Yeah, that's so important. I think that you said a lot of things in there, and they do apply to the physical state that, we go through when we're working out. And when you were speaking, I was having so much empathy for my Pilates instructor because I make her work me out really hard the past week or two. I'm like, I just got to burn off this physical energy I had. So,
Yeah.
uh, but then, yeah, she's still going. She has someone before, she has someone, after. It's just all day. So I really just had a lot of, empathy for that for her,
Uh,
which I never thought of before. We walk in and we just think, okay, it's a little time slot. We're here. Or, I know that from teaching yoga as well. For me, it's like I've trained yoga instructors in a studio as well. And so I know that from my own perspective, but I never let it show to anyone
mm,
else. So I
mhm,
think there's really something beautiful in hearing you speak about it, be vulnerable, and then showing us really what it's like and then what you actually can do for it. And all I hear is like rest, even going for a walk. It's, realigning and resting and getting a chance to rewire. And all of those are part of inner design methodology, which is in corporate boardrooms. So it's the same thing you're doing in the gym. It's the same thing we're doing at home as mothers. We also go through burnout, exhaustion, and things come life is constantly coming and you're constantly problem solving, right? And that can get really exhausting. And so instead of operating from that pressure, you're telling us you come back into alignment to operate from, and I think that's just beautiful to live from and to guide from.
Yeah. Yeah, and, there's in what I've always done, there's an element of I don't wanna say I was gonna say performing, and it's not performing, it's presence.
Yeah.
And, um, whether it was personal training, running the gym and teaching classes, or leading my team of trainers, now doing coaching, running group, coaching cohorts, and I love that piece of it. I'm so energized by it. Like, I just ran my monthly meetup yesterday, and it was great. And it was relatively small, great conversation, and I came home and I was like, "Oh my god, I have to go close my eyes." Like, I really now recognize that sort of push and pull of it's not sucking my energy because I love doing it, and in the moment, it's like there's no place I'd rather be, but I also understand that I have to balance it out on the other
Yes,
side.
yeah. Yeah, it's balance, it's totally balance.
Mhm.
Where, I guess, in the business performance aspect, or how can people lead themselves? Maybe they're in a position where there is no chance to take a rest and a break, and, like, how does rest look like, or how can you guide someone from that perspective?
I think it really for me, in all the work that I do, it always comes down to, like, what are the small, incremental things that you can do or add or even replace to that feel one that you are going to actually be able to follow through and be consistent about it. And I think, in making the comparison between fitness and business, it's like a person who hasn't worked out in 10 years is not going to join a CrossFit gym and do two a days as soon as they join. I mean, yikes.
Yeah.
Good luck
Yeah.
to them if they do. No, I don't think anyone should do two a days, but um it I mean, I feel like there's so many parallels to make in life in general. Picking something that feels very manageable and very attainable and builds your confidence in ability to do it. Maybe it's a 10-minute walk, and I highly recommend this is something I've started doing when I do go for my walks. I don't bring my AirPods anymore. I don't listen to podcasts or books because I find that whenever I walk, like, my most creative ideas come to mind. Um, and I dictate them into my phone just so I don't forget them with my perimenopausal brain.
Relatable, relatable for
Uh-huh.
me.
Because it will disappear. Um, so, is that a 10-minute a day walk? Is it, uh, 10 air squats every hour getting out of your chair? I obviously tend towards the movement side of things, but,
Yeah.
um, what is it for you that allows you to actually disconnect? Because in the long run, it's gonna be those moments or periods of disconnect that really allow that that balance to, um, come into play.
I love it. When I heard you say, like, it's the little moments and stuff, I always say that with mindfulness. To me, that's sustainability, is doing the small things that you can do. And mindfulness is like, do it often then. Do small things, but do them often. You're at the stoplight. Take 3 deep breaths. You really don't have to close your eyes. You can just count them through, and the
You
small
shouldn't.
things that are accessible to you all the time. And so I think
Yes.
it's really important to know that and to hear that. And I love hearing the motion side of it, because I don't think of that often, as the first step, but maybe there's a lot of listeners out there that need to hear that, do some squats, stand up, do this. Um,
Yeah. I start all of my group, gatherings with it's always optional, but it's a 20-minute workout. And, it's all levels. I plan for anybody to show up no matter what kind of shape that they're in. Um, I just think that it's so grounding. It's so I don't wanna say, like, levels the playing field, but it's like no matter how you're coming in, whether you're stressed or you're overwhelmed or you're nervous or however you show up, like we're all just going to move together and have fun with it. And I do find that that helps people to um, just let their guard down a little bit.
Yeah, and I love hearing it like that. Move together, and for me, it's like, let's breathe together, and I think we're synchronizing something at that other level of our heart and our energy. It's all coming into that and coming into sync for each other, and I think that's so great.
Exactly.
I heard you speak a little bit about, when you were talking about you going through the pain that you were facing and how there's like a loss of creative access. And for me, of course, it piqued my ears. I was, let's talk about creativity. So, what do you
Yeah.
think happens when creativity? What happens to our creativity when we are constantly in survival mode? I think when you're in pain, and it sounds like that's what it was. What do you think happens?
I think the joy disappears. Um, I'm not going to pretend that now now that I don't have pain, like the life of an entrepreneur is all sunshine and rainbows, because most certainly there are days where I just want to, shut it all down and say, this is so hard because it's really hard.
Right?
Um,
Yeah.
and so when there is, the added layer of pain or fatigue or, whether it's physical, mental, emotional stress. I mean, I went through a very difficult, basically year and a half of losing my mom after a long illness, and then going through my back pain and a major back surgery. It was just, my initial instinct is to not really talk about those things, as it's like, no, like, but I'm resilient and, I forge ahead. Um, but the reality is, like, there's a huge part of my story, what kind of creativity and excitement I was able to access during that period. Um, and now being on, the other side of it, like, not that grief ever ends, but um, I can recognize like just how much that period of time took away from um, my ability to really, uh, yeah, just enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah. A lot there. You shared a lot there. Thank you for being vulnerable and
Yeah.
really, speaking to what a lot of people don't share. I think when you said about resilience, we think resilience just means we're this like strong wall and nothing bumps up against it. But I think it's more like maybe you're a rubber band and then you kind of stretch and then don't really break, but you might be pulled to the end and you really feel the tension in it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
hearing you say that and probably what you went through in your journey is also reflective of that. I don't think that people really were trying to get on the other side of it constantly,
Mm.
right? Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Like, are you in the clear now? Is it okay? But then how do you carry things through your life and then still continue to build? Maybe there's something still that's heavy with you. Like you said, the grief doesn't go away, but can you still carry that and then still turn around and build things, make things, keep living your life in a vibrant way?
Yeah. I think we're just like so conditioned to just, and again, entrepreneurs and high achievers, like we're so conditioned to just push through, but push through. And then when you're faced with something, or a few events that are as major as I have recently gone through, and you're like, no, no, I actually can't push through. It's physically impossible because I'm in pain, physically impossible because I'm very tired in grieving mode, physically impossible because I'm flying, back and forth to California every month. It's just like I wish, in my own case, I wish it didn't take such major, impactful events to, really shine a light on that perspective. But I guess like another way of looking at it is I can be grateful that um, now I do see things differently and approach things differently. And, life is different because of it.
Yeah, yeah. I think, besides it being so real and raw, it's also really inspiring to be able to share what it does look like going through it and on the other side of different parts of it. Um, I would love to know, like, how would you advise people who might not know they're about to step into something that's gonna be challenging? Maybe you can see it or they are about, whatever it might be, something's coming. How do you guide them through that?
I think it's kind of similar to what I said about, sort of injecting these moments of balance or movement. It's like, I know for me when I was going through it, I knew that creatively, I was not in a place to come up with content, but there was some back end stuff in my business that I knew I wanted to get to. That was a lot more sort of check the boxes, checklist, and I was like, this I can do right now. Like, give me a checklist and I can do things, but I don't want to come up with the checklist. And so I think I would
Right.
say
Yeah.
that that's how I would advise somebody, is that there's always going to be an element of, something you can be working on. And it's okay that it's not maybe going to pan out the way that you have planned for, or, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are typically your creative days, but for whatever reason, your schedule is not going to allow that. So, are you just going to throw in the towel on all of it? No, like what can you do? I always think there's something to do. It just may look different, but it's all going to move things in the same direction.
I was recently you're just reminding me of a mastermind, business mastermind that I'm part of. And we were talking about when you said the checklist, we're talking about the to-do list and how it's a faculty of the mind to make things and keep adding it on the list. And you think I'm going to cross it off. But by then your mind's come up with the next thing. And it's like, this is part of how the function works of our mind. And so it it was advised in this, at the end of the day, instead of having the to-do list for the next day, which a lot of times that's advised, was to do a done list, like all the things you finished, you
That's what I
completed,
say.
Is it
I call
really?
it,
Can you
yes,
share
yes.
about this? Because yeah, tell me
Yeah.
why, because this was literally this morning. I mean, I'm telling you this, like, just fresh off of this information of the done list, and then to me, it felt like gratitude, a a practice of gratitude, but what is it to you? Do share.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't change what you did or didn't do. It's just a way to congratulate yourself. I like to call it the I did it list.
Yeah.
Um,
Yay! I love
and
that.
yeah, and like, I could most certainly be better about doing it for myself, but um it's just a reframe of, again, the our sort of default is to look at all of the things we haven't done, the things that we wish we had done or had done differently, or the outcome had been different. And I do like to think that instead, focusing on the I did it list compounds over time and just builds that confidence to be able to look back and say, now you're reminding me, I attended, gosh, this was probably a year and a half ago. I attended like a lunchtime session at a co-working space that I was a part of for a little while. Um, and the woman who facilitated it, one of the things she had us do was write down all of the things you've accomplished over the last, I think she had us do like year. And I think she said she was going to give us like 10 minutes. And I was like, that seems like an awful lot of time. And that 10 minutes was up and everyone's still writing, because it's like, oh, my kid went to preschool, and, it doesn't always have to be business related, but to be forced to look at the things that you have done, be it daily, weekly, annually. I think I love that you got that advice as well.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely inspiring. I thought, "Oh, this is how, we come into these traps of, like, how our mind functions, and it just feels overwhelming and exhausting." Of course, that leads to burnout if it's not regulated, so this was just one of the things, and I think even like you said, you're sitting there and you're journaling and you're thinking or you're making a list in 10 minutes. I've had that before where you're, like, trying to make a list of positive things versus negative things, and you're like in a course format that I experienced it myself as a participant, and it was like, how can I come up with things for 10 minutes? At the end, it's like, oh my gosh, once it gets flowing, you realize it's just a matter of, I think, perspective of opening your eyes, opening your mind, looking at something a little different, and then just actually starting to, assess what it is. I think it's really refreshing to be guided through that sort of thing. I'm glad you provide that to people. It makes me think about maybe in the inner design programs, what, qualities I can provide for people to be able to come up with things that they can, be able to have a better perspective of whatever they've gone through, right?
Yeah, because I think unfortunately it, it takes someone telling us to do this exercise in acknowledging all of your accomplishments. We're just like it's just so easy to uh kind of spiral down the yeah, but I didn't do, or I wish I had, or I wish I was further along, or I was more successful, or whatever. So yes, if you can, if those same people who nudge you and say, "Hey, hey, hey, you've actually done a lot of things," can also force you to, write them down for easy access somewhere. That's even better.
Yeah, yeah, and then maybe put it on a Post-it note and stick it on your mirror so you can look
Yes.
at that, day and again, look at the things that I've come through and I've accomplished. I think it's really great. It's important to
Hmm.
take the time to value that. Otherwise, I think we're just on a hamster wheel, right? There's no
Yes.
end.
Yes. Sure feels that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we're coming close to the end. I just love that whenever you and I have these conversations, I feel like there's such a lightness and there's humor and you bring out something that's I never really think about, joking about things, but somehow I'm really comfortable with that with you. So I wanted to mention that to you because
Oh, good.
this is going to be my like fun and humorous, like, kind of me goofing off, I guess, in a way, or being free to celebrate laughter with you, so I appreciate
Yes.
that, and I really appreciate your authentic visibility, I think, that you not just come here and share with us, but you bring out to the world, to everyone who works with you. Where
Oh,
can our listeners find you and connect with you? What do you have? I know you have a bunch of stuff. I will share them in the show notes, but let's hear it from you.
yeah. My website is just leslieboyce.com. I have a Substack newsletter that I put out every week. I have my podcast, The Fitness of Business, and I am currently opening a couple spots for one on one coaching. And I'm specifically looking for people who are in the startup space. So maybe you've got an idea or you need some help sort of with your overwhelming amount of ideas. That's kind of my specialty. So I'd love to work with you.
Perfect. I love your Substack. Of course, you featured me on your
Yes.
podcast, and so that's
Yes.
on there as well. But I love following your Substack and
Thank
newsletter,
you.
getting your newsletters and seeing, following your podcast as well. So I will share all of those links with everyone. And I'd
Thank
like to end
you.
with one last little question to just dig a little deeper. If you could imagine someone listening right now who has built the business, checked the boxes, achieved the goals, but still feels disconnected from themselves, what would you want them to remember?
Mm, that you are not defined by your business, your business success, no matter no matter whose definition of success. Um, your self-worth is not wrapped up in the success of your business or even perceived success of your business. And if you have positively impacted even one person throughout your work, then you've achieved something.
I love that. Thank you. Thanks so much, Leslie, for being here with us on Inner Design.
Yes, thanks for having me.